Hey everyone, welcome to my channel where we talk about all things Mary Magdalene. Today's episode is why Mary Magdalene is the ultimate feminist icon. They fear her power. This video was suggested by one of our patrons over at Patreon. So if you have an idea for a video you want to see, please let me know by leaving your suggestion in the comments below, or better yet, head on over to Patreon and become a patron and leave your video suggestion there. Before we begin, I just want to let everyone know that we are so close to hitting a milestone. We're only about 1,000 subs away. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It really does help. Also, this month we had 2 patrons who donated using PayPal. If you would like to support the channel, please consider donating using the link in the description below. Alright, let's get into today's video. Throughout history, Mary Magdalene has been the subject of a smear campaign. The reason why? Because the powers that be don't want anyone to know the truth about her. More specifically, they don't want anyone to know just how powerful she was and still is. Mary Magdalene was one of the first preachers of the Christian faith. She was with Jesus during his ministry, and she was with the disciples after his death. All except for Thomas, according to tradition, until his death. Mary Magdalene was the first person to whom Jesus appeared after his resurrection. And many scholars believe that it was Mary Magdalene who was Jesus' closest confidant, his best friend, which makes her the ultimate feminist icon because the patriarchy fears her power. Mary Magdalene was not just any woman. She was a revolutionary. And when I say that, I mean that she went against the status quo. She didn't do what society expected of her. Most women of her time were subservient to men. Mary Magdalene was independent, free, strong, intelligent, confident, and fearless. But let me tell you, it wasn't easy being a woman back then, especially if you were a Jewish woman. Back in the day, a woman's life depended on her father, brother, or husband. Man could beat his wife as long as he pleased. Men could also divorce their wives for pretty much any reason. And women weren't allowed to own property unless they were a priestess, which was very rare. And speaking of being a priestess, the role of priest was strictly forbidden to women. For example, a woman could never serve as the high priestess of a temple. Instead, a woman's place was in the home. Taking care of children, cooking meals, cleaning the house, and submitting to her man. To put it simply, a woman's main job was to obey her man. So now that we understand how oppressive society was towards women, let's talk about why Mary Magdalene was the ultimate feminist icon. You see, Mary Magdalene was different from other women. She wasn't satisfied with living an ordinary life. She wanted more. She wanted to make a difference. That's why she left everything behind and followed Jesus. When Mary Magdalene met Jesus, she was drawn to his teachings because they gave her the hope for a better future. A future where women were equal to men and where everyone could live in peace. Mary Magdalene was one of the few women who attended Jesus' ministry. And even though she probably came from a wealthy family since she could travel, she gave up everything to follow Jesus. To me, that shows just how much she believed in him and his teachings. And I think it also shows how unhappy she was with the way women were treated. Now, some people might say that Mary Magdalene only followed Jesus because she loved him romantically, but I don't agree. Sure, Mary Magdalene loved Jesus. But I believe that her decision to follow him was based on something deeper, something that went beyond just romantic love. She followed him because she believed in him and his message. But let's go even further. Let's look at what happened after Jesus died. When the disciples were hiding in fear, Mary Magdalene was out there preaching the resurrection. She didn't care what people said. She didn't care if they believed her or not. She kept spreading the message. Eventually, her efforts paid off. People began to believe and the church began to grow. Some people might say that Mary Magdalene only became a preacher because Jesus told her to, but that's not true. Look at Acts chapter 1, verse 14. It says that the disciples were all gathered together in one place, but it doesn't mention Mary Magdalene. Why? Because Mary Magdalene wasn't with the disciples. She was out preaching. And that brings me to another important point. Mary Magdalene was the first person to whom Jesus appeared after the resurrection. And according to some sources, he didn't just appear before her once, but 7 times. Now, you might be wondering why he chose her to appear too. Well, I believe that it was because he knew that she would spread the message to the disciples, the same message that they refused to believe. After Jesus' death, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that it was empty. But she didn't run to the disciples and tell them. No, she didn't. She went straight to the city and found the disciples, except for Thomas. She told them what she had seen and what had happened, but they didn't believe her. And can you blame them? I mean, how could they believe that Jesus was alive when they had seen him dead? But Mary Magdalene didn't give up. She continued to tell them, even though they didn't believe her. And finally, Mary Magdalene went to find Thomas, the one disciple who wasn't with them when Jesus first appeared to them. She told Thomas what had happened and what she had seen. But he didn't believe her either. He needed proof. So Mary Magdalene went back to the tomb and invited Thomas to come with her. When they arrived at the tomb, Jesus was standing there. Thomas was shocked. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Odd. But Mary Magdalene was overjoyed. Finally, someone else would believe. But Thomas doubted. He asked Jesus for proof, for a sign. And Jesus showed him his wounds. After seeing the wounds, Thomas fell to his knees and worshiped Jesus. He finally believed. Why did Jesus show Mary Magdalene mercy when he didn't show Thomas any? Perhaps it's because Mary Magdalene never stopped believing, even when everyone else did. She didn't need proof. She didn't need a sign. She believed because she had faith. And let's not forget that Mary Magdalene was also present at the crucifixion. She watched as Jesus died on the cross. She felt his pain, and yet she still believed in him. To me, that shows just how strong her faith was. So why do you think the patriarchy fears Mary Magdalene's power? It's because she was a woman who dared to do what men wouldn't do. She wasn't afraid to speak out. She wasn't afraid to preach. And she wasn't afraid to lead. Mary Magdalene was a trailblazer. She broke the mold. She paved the way for women to become preachers and leaders in the church. Without her, women might still be in the shadows, but thanks to her courage and determination, women today can stand up and preach the word of God without shame. The patriarchy hates Mary Magdalene because she was a threat. She was a threat to their power, their control, their authority. They couldn't control her. They couldn't silence her. And they couldn't stop her. That's why they've tried to erase her from history. So, remember Mary Magdalene, the ultimate feminist icon. Remember her bravery, her strength, and her determination. And never let anyone tell you that women aren't capable of great things. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope you learned something new. If you did, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Also, let me know in the comments below what you thought of today's video and what videos you would like to see in the future. And if you want to support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. The link is in the description below. Alright, until next time, take care and remember Mary Magdalene.